A long, long time ago, back before there were smartphones, back before there were phones, in the previous century, almost to the time of the dinosaurs, I was where you are, a college student, attending lectures. There was one night I did something, attended this thing, I think you guys still do it, called a party. I went to mostly a male school, and it was all a bunch of engineers. So meeting this really wonderful party was a real treat. So we'd dance some and talk, and things would get going along pretty well. And at one point, she asked me what my major was. I'm a nuclear engineer. Her response was very quick and very clear. Baby killer! And that kind of ended the evening. There was no future follow-up dates. When you leave this lecture today, I want you to be ready to deal with people that have that reaction to you as nuclear engineering students because of nuclear weapon proliferation. It's a serious topic, and all of my presentation today is all going to be very highly technical, but it boils down to what are you going to think about this issue so that when you are accosted by someone, you don't have to stand back and go in through some period of introspection. You will be ready to discuss, debate, and deal with the people who are terrified of nuclear technology. So I started that way on 3 different occasions. When I screamed, and I certainly screamed each time, man, it caught off guard my audience. And I did a couple other things that I built into the opening. One was as people came into the room, you started interacting with them. Any good Toastmaster gets to their meeting place early, meets people to the extent they can. And in this case, I actually could remember a few of their names. So I took the 75-minute speech. I had various chunks along the way. And every 10 minutes or so through the speech, I stopped the technical part and came back to the opening. And I did it by calling on someone by name and said, all right, what's your answer to the question about nuclear weapon proliferation? Well, of course, the first time I did that, I got deer in the headlights look, total panic. I apologized to my victim after the meeting. But guess what? That, using the thing that I had started with, that this was a personal question that each of us have to answer in this field. So when I came back to that the second, third, fourth, fifth time, they were ready. So that my unconventional opening was having an effect during the talk. 2 months later, I came across 2 of the students at a nuclear energy meeting here in Idaho Falls. It was a dinner meeting. I recognized them, they recognized me. We got talking. One of them came up and said, we remember you. You were the funny one. Now, I had thrown some humor into this talk on nuclear weapon proliferation, trying to keep these students engaged and awake and paying attention. And then I asked the money question. Do you remember my message? And they both did. My story here tonight is to try to get across that when you're talking with an audience, okay, Toastmasters, it's kind of easy. We're programmed to pay attention. A little tougher on Zoom. But in most of life, there's a million distractions out there. You've got to do something in the first few seconds and periodically through the talk that grabs the audience, And that mostly means grabbing them emotionally. You have to tell them and keep telling them what's in it for them. What's the reason they're going to pay attention to you? They might have to physically be there or physically be on Zoom or whatever it might be. But they could be talking or thinking about what's going on tomorrow morning, what the next party is going to be, all the myriad things that are complicating our lives these days. You've got to reach them, pull them in to your message, to your story, and you've got seconds to do that. What some people have taught me, my first mentor in Toastmasters, Blake McDaniel, and others, you've got seconds for the audience to decide if they like you. And then a few more seconds for them to decide that you're worth paying attention to. So the handout goes through some of the details of how to do that. You want to grab the audience, introduce the topic, establish some rapport. Well, I did some of that before I ever started by greeting the people, the students, as they came into the room. I wasn't just someone standing up in front. I was someone who had shaken hands, got their names. And then one thing that's not in any of the Toastmaster documents, but I have found to be important in an opening myself, is I will rarely memorize an entire speech. Don't need to, it detracts from my energy level. But if there's one thing that I have nailed down before I start, is the opening. Why? Because the opening is so important, but also because when I start with something that I am comfortable with, that I've practiced, I get into a flow. It kicks my energy up. It kicks my confidence up. It kicks my awareness of what's going on up. If I've got the opening nailed down, then I can put more of my mental energy into watching the faces and the body language of the people I'm speaking to. So when I have a strong opening, yeah, it engages the audience. All that's true. But as a speaker, it kicks my skill level, my energy level up to have that opening nailed down, to know what I'm going to do during that opening 5% of the speech, 10% of the speech, whatever it is. Once I get going, it tends to flow better all the way through. If I have a weak opening, or it's just, I have a brain fart, or something's just not working, and the whole rest of the speech will tend to go that way. So work on your opening. Recognize that, especially outside of Toastmasters, the audience needs to have a reason to listen to you. They need to have some sense of what they're going to get by you, by paying attention to you. Said another way, you've got a message. You've got a gift that you want to give to the audience. Sometimes the wrapping paper matters. How are people going to receive that gift? Are they going to pay attention to that gift? That's what the opening's all about. Mr. Toastmaster.